Welcome into the Loochador Podcast, brought to you by David Nuño and Billy Liucci. Actually, we didn't bring it to you. Academy Sports and Outdoors did. And
Academy,
you're going
where
there soon.
I'm heading straight from here to Academy to buy some hiking boots.
Because you're
Or hiking
gonna
shoes.
go hiking.
I don't think we're going boots, but we're going to go hiking shoes. Just some kind of, all-terrain type shoes. And I know where to go to get them.
Academy.
It's Academy Sports and Outdoors. If it was just Academy Sports,
You could probably.
I might not be so sure. But
Right.
it's Academy Sports and Outdoors.
And outdoors.
I know I'm going to go there. I'm not just going to buy those. As you know, you walk in there. I'm going to see some other things for my trip, and I'm going to be like grabbing this, that, and the other thing. And I'm going to be okay with it because they also have tremendous prices.
You know that Academy is partnering up with Whataburger for a limited time. Exclusive Academy and Whataburger tailgate gear coming in hot. Score game day gear, fan styles, and more. Dig it now at Academy.
That's all the rage.
It
I
is.
get some kind of Academy Whataburger shirt just to scare off the wildlife. Bright
what you do.
orange.
Yeah. Well,
just
actually, it doesn't
thought-
scare off the wildlife. It scares off the shooters.
Just a thought. Just
Just
a
an
thought.
idea. So fall camp is almost over. We are very close to a game week, right?
Yeah.
Our shows will change. A lot of our emphasis will change. We'll get into some fall camp takeaways and just kind of break down where we are, Billy.
Absolutely. I mean, we are coming up on game week, right? Like a week from now, they will be entering game week. A week from today, we're sitting here recording this on a Friday. A week from tomorrow is like game week starts.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like a week from tomorrow starts their prep for the game. So I don't even know. And they might, not positive if they're not doing like some kind of walkthrough type situation today. No, that would be next Friday. They'll probably do. So a week from today, they're probably doing a mock walkthrough type thing.
Okay.
So we're here. My point is, we're done with spring. Fall camp essentially.
Essentially, right.
You've got, one more week of it.
So we did a lot of quarterback talk on TexAgs Live today, and I'm sure that'll come up here on the show. But maybe we can start off with some of the takeaways from the wide receiver group, some things that you're seeing from them.
Well, do you want to start there? We're going to talk quarterbacks. Too.
Okay, if we can still talk.
Loochador. I mean, we're going to do everything. But yeah, start off. I think if there's a takeaway from me, it might be one of the first things I noticed. I said this the other day. I think I said it on our podcast, the Moving Goalpost pod. The two things that jump out to me the most when I watch Texas A&M practice right now versus the spring or really any time in year one, it's the intensity and purpose with which the defense is flying around. And I don't know how much of that's Mike Elko taking a more active hand in it, because I think he probably already was during off season. I think the bigger change you're going to see from him is in season. I think it's more of two things. They're more motivated and confident in what they're doing. I think it's a hungry group, and that's showing. But I also think they're just more confident in what they're being asked to do in terms of practice and within the system. Year two in the system. So I think that's the biggest thing you're noticing is an experienced defense that's flying around and familiar with the system. In other words, there's so much less hesitation with what they're doing, but also there's a lot of new faces that are practicing at that level too. So that ties into the culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that jumps out at me. And the other thing right away is the wide receiver and tight end position, the pass catchers. It is night and day different, in my opinion. The speed, suddenness, quickness, agility, burst, explosion of that wide receiver position, and the playmaking ability. When you watch what those guys do after catch, how quickly they get up the field after snagging it, the plays they can make with the ball in the air, even though there's not a lot of height at that position. You've got tremendous speed and athleticism. And then the tight end spot, I think, is the most improved position on the team. And before you go into like the other guys, I'd say it starts with Theo. He doesn't look like the same dude out there. He looks like a guy, and he's look, we know his story. It's an adjustment from playing football in Sweden to here. I mean, if you went and watched him, if you listed the 5 most impressive physical specimens on the team and said what they look like today versus what NFL players look like at the position, he's top 5 in terms of prototype tight end in the NFL. If you put him in an NFL camp, he would blend right in today. Now, his game's got to get there, but I see a tremendously improved player when I watch him at practice, running routes, catching the football, yes, even blocking. I know you talked to him recently, and y'all talked about that. So I think it starts there. But Nate Berkacher, he's a mauler who he had diving catch the other day in practice, tremendous grab. People saw him make some catches in the spring game. He's a big-time ad. And when I say big-time, I don't know that it shows up in the stats, but for this roster and for this offense and what they want to do, Mike O'Reilly's another physical guy out of Auburn. You go and the guy that you kind of transition this into, and oh, by the way, there's a true freshman wearing number 21 that you guys are all familiar with, that out of Jasper, that if in one of these first couple games they manage to get him at the ball in space and he gets to turn up field and run, everyone's going to be just saying we want to see more of him. Now he's got an adjustment period, but I think he's going to be special down the road. But the guy that we won't talk about that we should, I mean, we will as a tight end, but I'm not sure we shouldn't talk about him as a receiver, is Amari Niblack. I don't know if this is how accurate this is. Someone told me the other day that he clocked a 4.39 during the offseason. I don't know if that shocked me. But if you'd have told me it was a 4.49, it wouldn't have shocked me. And maybe it is that. But you watch him catch the ball, cut up the field, and run at probably about 6'4" and 240 something. He can really, really run. But when you watch him catch, he's essentially a big receiver that you're going to use as a matchup problem because you can kind of motion him around and do what you want with him. And I think he and Terry Bussey are such cool pieces for Colin Klein to work with in terms of if you want to get super tricky and creative without having to run trick plays. It's the different ways you can line up Bussey and Niblack and create real problem with the formations. Not just for them, but to open things up for other guys as well, because I think both of them can be a real problem for opposing defenses. But Niblack, he's a real unique blend of size and speed. He didn't really get a chance at Texas. He was behind Gunnar Helm. He was a guy that they absolutely wanted to keep, however. He did start, as a true freshman, made plays at Bama. I think you're going to see more of the Bama version of him, and that's why Holman Wiggins pushed for A&M to take him. And if they can get that out of him, plus a little bit, because he's a couple of years older now, and also, he's got to produce here. This is your third school. There should be a level of motivation. That dude athletically is special.
All right, Billy, speaking of playmakers, they've added a lot to the wide receiver room. What are you seeing?
Well, I talked a little bit about Bussey. Terry made some, per everything on reports I've gotten, some great plays during the scrimmage, including a diving snag over the middle. Also, this week in practice, his name's come up a lot. Like I said, they're going to just think Ainias Smith before injuries kind of kept him at receiver. But what Jimbo wanted to do with him in and out of the backfield and at receiver and as a punt returner, I think he's similar and probably a little bigger. Well, he is a little bigger. He's not a big guy, but he's a little bigger than Ainias.
He looks bigger now, though.
He's definitely, that 10 pounds, when you see that 10-pound change on the thing, despite what some dumbasses on Twitter ascertained from a 4-second practice clip when they're jogging, that you see him walking around, you realize if he added 10 pounds, it's 10 pounds of muscle.
Right.
And so, does he look bulkier? Yeah, he looks more like a running back build. You see that all the time at the receiver position. You saw it with Ainias, I think. You saw it with, You saw it with Ryan Swope, which Swope was cut different. I think people don't realize how different Ryan Swope was at 205 pounds running legit sub 4.4. And I think maybe even at the combine may have run something like that. So, anywho, there's Bussy as kind of, I think, the Swiss Army knife and an evolving, developing receiver. What they added in the portal, man, in Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, people are not talking about it around the conference enough. When people that you and I know that cover Texas or cover the SEC, and they ask me who's a breakout player, people that are very respected, and the reason they're so good is because they do ask people like me about A&M. They ask whoever that version of me is at Alabama, at Auburn. They ask the people that know, and they put in the work, and they make, in some cases, probably 16 calls. And when they ask me, my answer is always, do you mean besides Casey Concepcion? Because to me, he's already broken out to some level in college football. His freshman year at NC State was really eye-opening. Quarterback issues, those numbers came down, but I don't think people realize that had a lot to do with losing a good quarterback, bringing in an inexperienced one. But this dude is special. And you heard about him, you watch him in spring, you heard about him more, you hear about him from strength coaches, from the players, everybody, scouts, and then you watch him, he's different. And made a couple big plays in the scrimmage. He just jumps out at you. But then I got calls the other day that he absolutely went off in practice, both he and Marcel. We'll talk quarterbacks in a minute, in a practice earlier this week where those two were just absolutely lighting it up. When he's covered, he's not covered. When you think he's covered, don't let him hit a cut on you. He's going to be open. And Marcel has started to understand that and anticipate that this DB's running with him right now. He's not going to be in a second because I know where he's in breaking routes going to be here. That's where the separation is going to come because you can't stick with him. And I think he's going to be effective short. And despite the fact that he's not tall, he's a big physical bodied guy.
Yeah.
He'll be effective down the field as well because he can get on top of a defender, and he's just terrific at locating and finding the ball. Pure playmaker. And then there's pure speed. And that's Mario Craver, and that's Ashton Bethel-Roman. No one in the SEC knows who Ashton Bethel-Roman is. That dude is you saw the play in the scrimmage where he went over the top. What I was told is like a play or two before that, another beautifully thrown fade from Marcel that Bethel-Roman in coverage, like tight coverage, catches over this opposite shoulder. So it was like back-to-back deep balls by number 3. And he does that every day in practice. He's an over-the-top home run threat. I think if between he and Craver's also just so cat quick underneath, and you see him out there, Nuño, he's small. He's exceptionally fast. Georgia saw that last year. Texas saw that last year. A&M saw that last year. Those 3 guys change, in my opinion. They change like how A&M plays offense under Colin Klein and what that passing game does because they can now go vertical.
Yep.
And that threat and what that does with the safeties and what that does for the running game and the lanes and even Marcel Reed, if he keeps it, the lanes with the safe. Like it just has the chance to open up everything for this offense. And if you're familiar with Klein and you watched him at K-State, they absolutely loved throwing the ball vertically. And we didn't see as much of that last year. We can kind of count the deep shots vertical. And Marcel's gotten better at it. I think the weapons almost like demand it. And what that'll do for your ground game, I think, is next level. Did I forget anyone?
No, but
TK Norman is going to play this year. True freshman. The players as much as anyone. He's one of the first names they'll bring.
I feel like Marcel brought him up.
He's got the respect of the QB room. In fact, it was yesterday I was sitting here with Jacob Zeno, who specifically brought him up.
Okay.
I think he was the first guy he mentioned by name. So, so that's another name you can't talk about the receiver position without mentioning because that dude's going to go out. He's going to make some catches.
All right. Well, let's go to the quarterback room in general. We've spoken a lot about Marcel, but the leaps and strides he's taken, and then the rest of the room.
Well, start out with the rest of the room. From the beginning, you watch Eli Morco's throw, he can sling it. I think he was a very late add just to even their radar. They pulled him from Tulsa. So he's in the system. And that's just something that I would say, let's
pay attention to.
Revisit this a year from now because that dude's a really athletic guy, and you watch him throw and you go, that's there too. Brady Hart, who was another late ad, but he wasn't late to their recruiting radar. Remember, this was a situation where he was going to Michigan, quietly was going to graduate early and reclassify, and then Michigan decided, Dave Portnoy and everyone else decided they wanted a $12 million quarterback. So they ripped Underwood from LSU, didn't want him to leave the state of Michigan. He's a Wolverine. All of a sudden, Brady Hart, who A&M was familiar with, who had visited and or camped, makes the call. All of a sudden, and A&M was aware because they were aware of what was going on. I think Brady Hart and his camp knew what was going on, knew it was a possibility. Boom, that happened really quickly. He reclassified. He's here. He's skinny like Bambi when he got here. He's added some weight. He's going to continue to add weight. He's got plenty of height. Man, he is a exceptional thrower of the football. And the more I watch him, and from what I've been told, he'll lead an offense down the field as well. He's got that kind of poise to him. But I think Miles O'Neill's got the best arm. Miles will flick it. It looks like he flicks it, and it goes 50, 60 yards. I mean, if he just cuts into it, I don't know how. There's not, we're not trying to throw the ball the furthest. Not trying to be Joe Milton over here. But he flicks his arm in that ball. So O'Neill's got the strongest arm. Brady Hart, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks covering A&M, and I'm talking about at A&M. And actually some really good ones in college, some that excelled, several that were drafted to the NFL, one that excelled in the NFL in Tannehill. Brady Hart, he's got that it factor of how he throws the football. Deep ball, touch, intermediate. He can put it on a rope. I'm just saying, of all the guys that have kind of really pleasantly surprised me this camp, he's at or near the top of the list. Again, this is a true freshman. So then you go into what's the QB2 battle look like, which I think is as important as anything. Zeno and the aforementioned O'Neal. I think Miles, man, there's a lot to love when he throws that football. He's been in the system for a year. So those are his advantages. And in the case of Zeno, he's played a ton of college football. Is he the guy that gets you through a game if you need it? I was talking to him yesterday. I didn't even realize him telling me, he went and played at Georgia at UAB. And I think he said they had either the most yards or points. They were up there that year and most. And I don't know how the game went, but he started in the SEC against Georgia. He played in a Big 12 title game. He's, I think, in year 6. He just had a baby last week, he told me. That's a mature dude that's going to handle whatever role he's got, whether it's, QB2, one play away, whatever he's going to be prepared for that and handle it well. And I think he mentioned it too, and it was his MO, what people told me. His accuracy, especially under within 20 yards, is impeccable. Very accurate, great job of anticipating and processing through things quickly. So those are kind of, you see that when you watch him as well. And all these guys can run and move a little bit. Like even Miles, people, when I say strong arm, so you immediately think,
oh, he can't run.
Oh, is he Nick Starkel? Is he Calzada? Calzada could run around a little bit, but O'Neal just seems, he's a fluid mover, let's put it that way, and a big dude. So I think Colin Klein can do all the things he wants to do with all these quarterbacks, but leading the charge is number 10. Marcel, his fall camp, he has just gone like this. And I think this week that just passed, he's in the midst of I don't know. I'll be really interested to hear what Mike Elko says in the next media availability just about his progress. He's not going to go over the moon with it, but I don't think he can hide his excitement or just optimism
The growth.
of the progress that young man has made as a passer and as a quarterback. You know, like last year, it was like, okay, you're going to go in and start. Now you're not. Now you are. Mid-game, go out there. You know, like, okay, now the job's yours. Here, that's a lot to go through when you're in a fall camp battle to be QB2. At this time a year ago, he was fighting, wondering if he was going to be the third string quarterback or second. And then to where we are today. But I'm just watching him throw the football, and I'm hearing about like how things go when you know, in the live situations. Yeah. And I'm just telling you, I'm not. People can't handle this shit sometimes, like this conversation, to understand what I'm saying without taking it too far, which the guy saying it is not doing that. But I'm trying to just let people know, because you rely on me to let you know such things. Just like you sat there and didn't think Ryan Tannehill was going to be an exceptional quarterback, and he was, or that Stephen McGee was going to be drafted, and he was, or that, you know, this guy named Johnny Manziel was going to be special. Or that Kellen Mond, that's the biggest one, that Kellen Mond was poised for a great senior year, because people were so set in their ways that Kellen Mond was incapable of doing that, and it ignored kind of all the signs. But I just think Marcel Reed has gotten better and better and better every step of the way as a passer, and throughout camp, from everything I'm hearing from, again, all levels, and people that would say otherwise, it wasn't the case. And they know I wouldn't come over here and go, man, this has sucked. It's just,
yeah.
But there are ways to say, hey, this is still a big-time concern. And I'm also not saying he's not there yet. And I would hope that I would assume they're saying the same thing about guys like Lagway and Simpson,
right,
and Manning and Simmons and Stockton, and up in Notre Dame, you know they're saying it because there's a two-way battle. But Marcel, he looks different. And I'm not saying he's going to be in New York City for the Heisman or first team all SEC or lead A&M to an 11-1 season. But you're trying to decide, can A&M take that next step? And whether your next step in your mind means 9-3, my answer to that is yes, they can. But whether or not they will, and if that real next step in your mind, which it almost kind of is in mine, can you take that step to getting into the playoff like Tennessee did last year? Like somebody out of your group in the SEC,
somebody
that group is going to do it. Can that be A&M? In order for that answer to be yes, Marcel has to be, in my opinion, like a top 5 QB in the league. Top 5, top 6, be a high-level SEC quarterback. And I think he's showing that day to day right now.
Let me ask
throwing the ball.
So you kind of alluded to it with Kellen, but do you remember what you were thinking or hearing at this point in other quarterbacks? So Tannehill at this point, Kellen at this point, Haynes at this point, Connor, like throughout these quarterbacks that you've covered, like, and how that has translated in the season, because I think Kellen was a good example of one.
Jimbo would really talk up his guys behind the scenes, really talk them up. And you don't catch that right away. And I think his quarterbacks love him for that. You see what he does with E.J. Manuel on that show. But I do think there's a balancing act. He would talk them up, but he was rough on them. Kellen, Haynes in particular. But he was really gung-ho about Haynes. I think he saw what you're seeing from Haynes now, and it just didn't
translate.
It didn't mesh with, maybe it's a coaching style thing. Maybe it's just that Haynes needed to ride it out and get older. But so those two, it was a little different. You could see it with Kellen in practice, though. And I think Marcel he's different. Like, we're talking about year 2 for Marcel. We're talking about year 4 for Kellen. And I think Marcel can be a lot more dynamic. We've already seen that. I think Colin Klein will let him play a little more free. freely. And you don't even see that in practice because it's not like Marcel's taking off trying to gain 15 yards through the teeth of a defense. Or he's getting outside. They're going to blow an early whistle. So that's not even really factored in. But I'm trying to think of a player. Tannehill was different. Yeah, Tannehill was a guy, and see, this is not a good example because they went 6-6 this senior. But man, the way he threw it, you could just tell that this guy, he was a receiver. He'd always say, "I'm a quarterback. I'm a quarterback." Every time I interview him, but remember, I'm a quarterback. I know you are, but pretty damn good receiver. But I'm a quarterback. I know, and he gets that job, and you could absolutely see after he started the end of the year in 2010. That offseason of 11, he looked incredible. Now, he threw way too many picks that year. I think certain guys didn't play up to expectation, and the team suffered. They gave up some big leads, but his numbers as a passer, he looked great to the point that he was top 10 pick in the NFL draft, played how many years in the league. You could see it come together for him. I'm not saying Reed's a top 10 pick. I can see the quarterback thing, he's been a quarterback his whole life, but you start to see it coming together for him up here because you're starting to see better decisions, faster decisions, more confident, a guy that's more confidently throwing the football. Here's what I hate about QBs that can do both. I hate when they get to the point, or if they're coached to this, or if in their head they feel like they have to prove this, that they have to prove that they're a pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a pocket passer. You have to prove that you can stay in a clean pocket and throw the football, and that you can stay in there as long as you can while your O-line's protecting you. But if there's something there, go take it. If the pocket's collapsing, recognize it immediately and get the hell out of there and don't get sacked. As long as you keep that willingness to use your legs as a weapon and make defenses pay, then and that's where I think Marcel, if he can find that balance, and he kind of alluded to it in that presser, like don't ever not be a runner. Ever. Don't ever. If I want you to just stand back there and be, that's what Dan Marino and Ben Roethlisberger, even Ben would get out of trouble.
Run, yeah.
But my point is, Tom Brady, like that's not what you will ever be. There's no reason to be that. Get out and make things happen and stress the defense. As long as he keeps doing that with the evolution as a passer, that's when A&M can achieve whatever their ceiling is.
All right, so stressing the defense. Teams were able to have big plays on the defense last year. Part of that was because of the secondary. Sorry?
Sorry. I want to real quick running back in O-line because we ran long. We've talked about these a lot. Offensive line, they've looked like what you think. You see, and by the way, when fans go to the games and you see Demetrius Crownover walking around out there, that dude, I see why the NFL is like, if he puts it together on tape this year, he can be a top 3 round draft pick. The height, the length, the athleticism, he's got to go out there and dominate this year. He's got the chance to. So he jumps out at me. Having Mark Naboo back really helps the overall look of that thing. And there's so much versatility. What I'm the most fascinated in, because you get a lot of it, is Trey Zoom going to be a center? And then you have 3 guards in Basantis, Reed Adams, and Naboo, and Naboo center and guard. Or and then you have the Crownover Father Reed tackle situation. Right. Or does Zoom sit at left tackle still? Do they move? I think there's a ton of flexibility. And I think that is an unknown on how much we're going to see of what as we enter the season. For the most experienced and loaded position on the team, I think there's a bit of an unknown at the O-line position. I think that's interesting going into the season. But they kind of seem to be working really with all options right now, which I wonder if they're going to kind of hone in starting this week on exactly what it's going to look like, or is this going to kind of be a bit of a moving target through the first few games as we get into SEC play? That part, I think everyone following A&M should be interested in and needs to hear, because I'm just telling you, there's a lot of flexibility there, and I don't think it's like a set in stone end result yet.
And then running backs?
And then running backs, Le'Veon back practicing. And again, they told you what they were going to do. Some people, even in our media, they're, hey, what about, where's Le'Veon? They told you what they're going to do. Now he's back out there. They said, we're going to ease him into it. He can run full speed. He can suit up, go through practice. We're going to ease him into it. They're eventually, going to start getting him hit. So, but they're not tackling to the ground anyway. We're going to start getting him hit, things like that. And I think he's on schedule. Ruben, I think you see them managing Ruben's reps as well. These are two guys that had season-ending injuries. Mari Daniels is back. I've noticed him. I've heard more than once, a couple of explosive plays in the scrimmage.
Collins singled him out.
Did he?
Yeah.
Couple. I was that presser I missed. Couple of explosive plays in practice. He's a guy like, look, that dude stayed here. He could have transferred. He didn't stay here to not play and say, you know what? Yeah, I'll let everybody else play my senior year and I'll stay at A&M. It's not him, and I think we forget he's one of the more underappreciated guys.
100%. I did it.
Yeah, E.J. Smith, one of the most improved players on the football team, in my opinion, from spring till now, or from last season till now. Looks like a different back. He's decisive. He's getting up the field.
Somewhere in November it changed. Somewhere, right?
Yeah.
The bowl game especially, he popped off.
He did. He had a good bowl game. He looks a lot better than that now. He just looks. There's more burst there. There's more. He's seeing it better. He's more decisive. I think credit EJ, but also credit Trooper Taylor. I think he's done a nice job with him. And probably also credit a really good O-line. And then finally, Jamari Morrow. I'm just telling you, pick your day. Somebody's telling me, dude, 23 is the real deal. And you've heard coaches mention him as well. They mentioned him in the presser.
Yeah, Collins.
I just don't think he reminds me of some of those K-State backs. I think he's an NFL football player that's a true freshman in college, and I don't care how loaded your running back room is. I think that guy he has a role, and he gets to play, and he'll make things. It reminds me of A&M with a backfield of Tiki Hardiman, Eric Bernard, who's highly regarded, Sir Parker, and that group. And there was one more, I forget who, he didn't play as much as them. And then there was this freshman named Dante Hall, who was a 3-star from Aldine Nimitz, who also was probably going to Missouri, like Morrow was, similar. And, by the end of that season, that guy was a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
And by the next year, he helped them win a Big 12. So I would say absolutely Morrow, whether it was last week's scrimmage, he's making plays. EJ had a couple touchdowns from what I was told. Whether it's that or in practice, and he's still doing it this week, this dude there's just a burst and a pop and just a big play ability there that you can't put in the cupboard and wait until next year, because you have good running backs and potentially a great one in Moss, but you can't, he'll play. He'll play early.
Shall we transition to defense?
Yeah, do a quick run through of the defense here.
All right, so I think I had a great segue earlier, which was the big plays. And
yeah, you did.
It was really good, so I'd like to revisit that. No, I think we got more intel, which is better. So defensively, you said on TexAgs Live, deep secondary, you feel really good about it. Give me the why.
I just think, look, and I'm talking about the receivers making plays and stuff, and some of this stuff, from what I've been told and then from what we've seen, is also really contested. And they're making plays. This is funny because I told somebody, man, receivers look really good. Well, should I be worried about the secondary? I'm like, yeah, fine, worry about them. If you can't handle this, then worry about that. Like it lets you do what you like to do, which is be negative and worry. Am I sitting here going to tell you this is a top 3 secondary in the SEC? No. Do I think they're going to be noticeably and significantly better than last year? Yes. Why? Tyreek Chappelle, Julian Humphrey,
That's right.
Jordan Shaw. First of all, like those three new additions.
Additions, yeah.
By the way, Adonis Curry as a true freshman really stands out to me. And then Des Ricks is a guy that I think is. I mentioned Theo. I mentioned EJ Smith. Des Ricks is on the short list of like most improved. People for some reason were ready to just cast him aside in the fan base after a bad game in the bowl game against USC.
Right.
Just like, oh, that's that. I think you forget the potential there. I think you forget what Nick Saban's opinion was of him at Alabama. He would have started at Alabama last year and probably gone through the same growing pains. Now, those growing pains are behind him. He had a good spring. He's had an even better fall camp. So I love that combination of options there at that corner spot. Chappelle at the nickel is Elko's talked about it enough. You know what that means. He's had a really good camp. And then if you have to, you have the ability, okay, well, Chappelle is going to go back to corner opposite Will Lee, and Shaw and Bravion Rogers can be your guys fighting it out at nickel. So there's flexibility, there's options. And then on the back end, Miles Davis has had a good camp. So now you've got him and a really improved Ratcliffe to go along with the veterans in Anderson and Brooks, who I think Dalton Brooks, I'm just telling you, the more I watch them practice, 25 jumps off the page in terms of, and look, I mean, well, if you went Lee, Ricks, Chappelle, and Brooks, and I didn't mention the other safety spot, but I'm just saying, like, if that's the level of like athlete you're putting out on the field out there, those are all guys that can really run, flip their hips, turn, cover, make plays. Like, I think that's a high degree of talent. It's what you need in the SEC to go against those type receivers. So I think most improved position on the team, I might go tight end 1, secondary 2. But now the question is, are they going to be the top half of the league in that back end? If they can do that, I think this team could be really good. That's a big jump too, because I think last year they just weren't where they need to be.
I do want to ask, well, not ask, I'll make a statement. You, last year, heading into the season, probably around this time, told me you had questions about the secondary. You were very honest about that.
I did.
So not everything's always rosy.
And I think we had questions at receiver as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. I guess we'll move in order. Linebackers.
Yeah. Same guys at the top, really at your top 3 in York, Scooby, and Sanford. I think Torian York is a glue guy on your defense, who you hope becomes even more of a playmaker, like you saw kind of had a couple of them there against Texas in the bowl game he did, and obviously LSU down the stretch of that game. But glue guy on your defense. And if you don't know how important that is, look at the linebacking core of like a Michael Hodges when he played versus the year after he left. Communication, knowing where you're supposed to be, knowing where to line up. You look at like a Dat win, like verbally, like knowing what's coming. Hey, watch the, watch the counter here, watch the guard to put, whatever. He makes everyone better because of the mental side. And then if he can become, he makes plays, but take that next step. I think the depth is what's really interesting to me, because I mentioned Sanford. He's going to be a huge factor. But how far along do guys like Jordan Lockhart, who has caught my eye a lot in camp? You see 54 running around out there. He gets your attention both from his size, and he plays really aggressive, physical. There's not a lot of hesitation to his game. And then you've got Jernigan and another guy that people keep talking to me about, keep bringing up.
I think I know where you're going.
Is Noah McKay,
Yeah, I was going to say.
freshman. So the depth at that position as it sits here today, going into the season, I go, that's something of a concern and something to watch, but it's got the potential to not be. Is that Lockhart? Is that Jernigan? Is that McHale? Is it two of those three? I think you're comfortable with Sanford as depth, and he continues to, kind of just make a natural progression as a college football player.
And then D-line.
That's my question this year. And I'm not scared of it. I'm not sitting there going, D-line's not going to be good, because that's not what I think. But it is the biggest position of, I need to see it. I feel better about the D-line this year after losing Scorton, Stewart, and Turner than I did about the secondary.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
But I'm also not sure. Like, we're not going to be – I don't think you're going to be sure until a team like Notre Dame lines up with Jeremiah Love and that O-line and says, we're going to run it on you for 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to throw, but, we're going to line up and test your manhood for 4 quarters. Which is what we did here last year. And it was close, but we won out. And we're going to do that again in South Bend until you prove otherwise. And, they ended the year with Texas doing that as well. I'm excited. I'm bullish on the pass rush being better. They missed so many sacks last year, so maybe I'm not giving it enough credit because they just couldn't finish, but they did generate pressure. But I just see guys like Howell. I see guys like who am I? The 3 transfers: Hayes, Searcy, and Pemba. But really, like, to me, Deion Hayes, pass rusher. Cassius Howell, potentially elite pass rusher. Again, I go back and say, look at his last 3 games. That doesn't even mention the fact that he had what should have been a game-changing play at the end of the half at South Carolina as well. Strip sack, fumble. If I'm not mistaken, he even recovered it and ran with it a little bit. Him down the stretch last year as a non-starter until the bowl game, those numbers are pretty spectacular. So I think they've got, and Marco Jones is the true freshman. He more than anybody, I think he's got a real chance to eventually start. Doesn't mean he has to, because they've got dudes. But I just think with that whole group, they will really get after. And Rylan Kennedy flashed it a multiple times last year that he can get to the QB and get there in a hurry and cause a real problem for ends with his quickness. So I feel great about the pass rush. Again, I don't think there's a lot of size at that end spot. Searcy and Hayes will help in that regard, but there's not a ton of size. And how do they hold up when teams try to kind of run at them and get downhill? Like Texas did, like South Carolina did, like Notre Dame did, to some degree, like Auburn did in that game. That'll be the test. But I do trust Elko in figuring that out. And some of the changes he made on defense, I think, will allow Jay Bateman to focus so much more of his time and effort into making sure that those fits at least eliminate, the misfits that turn into the big plays. Safety's got to get better in that regard as well. I think if there's that's another concern of mine too. I'll say that. The safeties tackling. And by that, I mean, I just have to see it before we're bought in on it. Because you saw bad angles and misses out of really that whole group, including Brooks, who I'm bullish on, but Brooks, Anderson, Ratcliffe, a lot of times you'd see them zeroing on a target, either a bad angle or a missed tackle that lead to some big plays. So they got to make a big jump in that regard. But, man, getting after the quarterback, I think they can. And that defensive interior, depth is an issue today. It will not be. If they stay healthy, it won't be midseason, because I think those 3 true freshmen are kind of a storyline of camp. You had one of them in here the other day in Landon Ring. That dude's like a bull in a china shop. He is a wrecker in there, effort-wise, strength, power. But the one that I feel like everyone's talking, Chase Sims, is going to be really good too. And I think they're all 3 going to see the field early this year. But DJ Sanders has a chance to be an absolute monster on this defense. I don't think he'll be a monster this year,
Yeah, that's
but I think as a
long
true
term.
freshman this year, he's a contributor, and he's a guy that's absolutely going to factor in because you're looking for that fourth and fifth guy. You feel great about Regis. Hicks, put him on a short list of a guy that's had a great camp. He needed to. He's a 5-star signee. He bided his
Yeah.
time. A lot of guys would have transferred. He didn't. He's here. It's his turn now, and he's had a great fall camp. Then the other guy that I don't think we're talking about enough is Tyler Onyedin. Had a great 2023 season, terrific. Put himself on draft boards at Iowa State. Last year, not quite as much. I think where he'll make a difference this year, and you'll see it in his production too, where he'll get better. He's not just he's a big guy, but he's fit and they'll move him around. Mike Elko will move him around, and it might even be where if you're trying to get, I think he's a pass rusher on when you're going with odd fronts,
Yeah.
he's a guy that you can really move around and maneuver with and flexible. So, man, there's not much to not like about this football team. And I am a lot more optimistic after watching fall camp, particularly some of these individual improvement. There are some positions of depth questions that have to sort themselves out. There are a couple of positions of show me because you had a long way to go from last season. But I think this football team has less questions than a lot of the teams they're going to be playing this year that are ranked around them. And a lot of those toss-up games, if you just said, hey, who's got less question marks? And it starts with Marcel versus some of these other teams. And I do think A&M's got less questions. I think this is a year where Mike Elko's looking at it going, he says finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got to figure out a way to win some close games that are 100% coming their way. And it might be against even lesser teams, the unranked teams on the schedule. They got to be a fourth quarter football team. And I think probably believes if I can get them there, we could be that team this year that comes out of the group.
I'm a big believer in being committed to the process. And when you have a team that returns as much as A&M does, and you're committed to the process, which I believe that they are, then you will be better. It's a very similar team where they address some holes and they have gone after their deficiencies.
Yeah, the question, right, is how much better versus your opponents. I think we can go team by team and say Florida should be better. Auburn, a lot depends on
TBD.
the quarterback, could be better.
He should be better than Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, but not Thorne against A&M, unfortunately.
No.
But Auburn should be better. Florida, I think, will be better, and will go from not a good team they played in the swamp to it's a
really
good team
now. LSU better.
I think South Carolina probably not better, but quarterback probably better. I think Missouri is an interesting one. I think Arkansas won't be as good, but you're playing there. Missouri is kind of a wild card. I think, Drinkwitz gets it done. That's a scary game. So A&M's going to have to be significantly better. Can they be significantly better? The answer is yes, they can. We're not going to know it till they take the field. And I'm not saying, like a lot of these positions we're talking about, and it's exciting and it's promising, but here's the interesting thing about A&M. They got a lot of NFL talent. They're the most experienced roster against Power 4 teams in college football. I'll show you the numbers if you ask for it. I'll list it. They're the most experienced team in college football against Power 4 opponents. Number of starts on their roster versus Power 4. They're number one in college football. They've got a returning starter at quarterback that had some really exciting moments in year one. So they got a lot of what you're going to need. I don't think they have that, like, those top end game change, a Myles Garrett pass rusher, a, top 10 draft pick at corner, a, Chase Jefferson at receiver, or like the Bama receiving core, the legendary, I don't think they've got those guys.
But they got a lot.
Per se. And Moss could be the best running back in the SEC if he's healthy. So, but you look around, and I just think with all of that, I don't think it's like a giant gap where A&M's up there in that okay, it's Bama, A&M, and Georgia. Or nowadays it's like Georgia, Bama, and Texas. I still think A&M talent-wise, and I think Texas took a step back. I think Bama took a step back. Georgia, I think people are sleeping on. They're still up there. It's just a question of Gunner Stockton.
Right.
It's just the more you watch them in camp and the more you hear Elko talk about them, I think they have staying power through the grind of an SEC schedule where they can survive some of that attrition. They've got some components of where they could be better as the season goes on. They got to prove they can win on the road. They have to. They showed a little bit of it last year early, Gainesville, Starkville, and they went and the atmosphere got them. And you can say it didn't. The atmosphere got them at Auburn. They came back, took the lead late, but they were down 21-0 to a bad football team to start. And I think the youth got them at South Carolina. A good football team in the Gamecocks, a great defense, great performance by a quarterback. But I think that the inexperience of being the hunted got to them there, so that's a learning lesson. But they got to win on the road. You look at South Bend, you look at Baton Rouge, you look at Austin. But oh, by the way, you better look your ass at Fayetteville and Columbia as well if you want to have that type of season. So they've got a big jump to make, but so do a lot of these teams they're playing. And I think we'll know a lot from that September trip to South Bend. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it could be massive if they could win it and when Auburn comes to town. So by the end of September, even though it's just, two really significant games, I think they win those two, you could be feeling really good about the potential of this football team. So I think Elko knows he's got a good one. But again, you watch him play and you go, this team could be really good, but it's not overwhelming where you're coming back going, I don't know who's better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there yet. So we're talking up the positions, and this is my way of basically in an hour saying I think they're better at every position on the field. D-line, TBD. It'll be hard to be better, but they could do some things better.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Billy.
All right.
Thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors. See you Monday.